Hello, everybody, and welcome to It's Not Only Football, Friday Night Lights, and Beyond. Today, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 15, Blinders. Zach?
Fun stuff and not so fun stuff. Playoff win, fun. Street learning to drive, fun. Powderpuff, fun. Racism, not fun.
What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for coming in and joining us this week as we discuss, like I said in the open, Episode 15 of Season 1, Blinders. This episode was written by Bridget Carpenter, who also wrote Crossing the Line earlier in the season, and was directed by Stephen Kay, who did It's Different for Girls. So two returning writers. Bridget also had help from Carter Harris, and I believe the rest of the writers' room, but those are the names that are on this particular episode. This one covers a lot of ground. We're going to talk about some stuff later in the episode that, we are not, necessarily fully equipped to understand.
We are three white people discussing racism, which is obviously part of the problem, which is also what makes this, situation, this episode being written by white people, automatically the experience is tainted because we cannot possibly begin to understand what any of those experiences would be like for ourselves. This is not a storyline that just gets wrapped up. This is not something that, gets fixed. It's not a contained issue. There's more of this coming up on this show. And I think, it's important to acknowledge that. And I'm also excited, by now, at least the fact that there are shows that are written by people of color. And there are shows that, it's like things like, Abbott Elementary and like, Queens and The Summer I Turned Pretty, Jenny Han, these are shows that I think we're starting to, it's still a problem, but we're starting to move in the right direction of actually having people who can comment on these experiences, who understand that. So, that would be my moment.
Yeah. And that being said, the episode still back in 2006 was an important episode to have and a discussion to continue to have. And the show didn't try to crib any of its characters in a perfect way. In any way, shape, or form. There was no, sending a white principal into an inner city school, and then all of a sudden they fixed all of the problems, as we see evidenced by Tammy's open forum that happens later in the episode. And, at least the show was bridging the conversation. But we'll cover a lot of the tougher stuff at the end of the episode. Outside of what we just spoke on, it's not only football. I'm sure everybody has their own take on this. If it's not only football, this episode to me was all about hollow apologies. We see it in many different storylines, actually, not just the main one and Mac's poor attempt to apologize for comments he makes at the beginning of the episode, but we also see it with different characters, and it'll come up a couple of times. What about you, Mae? If this episode wasn't only football, what was it?
Well, obviously, barring the obvious, which is the problematic systemic racism, I would say this episode for me was about pheromones. I don't care what anyone
that's
says.
Crazy.
Zach was having a hard time trying to pull his together, and I said, you could always just say it's about pheromones.
Sorry, bro. That's mine. I think it's fascinating. It reminds me of the fact that someone once told me that they have pheromone parties where you go and you basically rub a piece of fabric like under your armpit, and then you put it in a bowl. I wish I was joking. You put it in a big bowl, and then somebody goes around and smells them until they find one that they're attracted to. And then they're like, okay, whose armpit is this? It's like a swingers party.
Who are you hanging out with?
I didn't go.
What are you Googling?
Didn't get invited. This was I heard it from someone. I didn't even have to Google it.
My son, actually, the past year, like when he's been down, he's like, Dad, can I just snuggle into you? And then I'll catch him like smelling my armpit every now and then. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like a comfort thing to him. There's something to it. I mean, my son feels safe, like he's around me and I see him. I'll catch him sometimes sniffing the armpits. Well, Zach, if it's not only football, what is it for you?
Oh, man. Wow. It's the return of Landry. I mean, what have 2 episodes in a row without him? Oh, what a good spice of life came in. Spice of life. But it was good to see him again, and he stole the show in all his scenes, as always.
Landry, the spice of life. Like maybe he has a little jingle, like every little jingle every time he comes on. So that being said, that's the Not Only Footballs for us. Let's kick the episode off, and it jumps in midway, or actually towards the end of the fourth quarter of Dillon Panthers' first playoff game, which I don't know if everybody out there can't see my shirt. Dillon Panthers State or Bust. Yeah, I stole this one. Stole this T-shirt off the wardrobe bus.
Klepto Scott.
I actually got busted the first time I tried to lift a couple of shirts. Now, here's the thing. Like, all of the players, like Gaius and Taylor and, like, even you, I guess.
I'm a player, too.
Yeah, I don't know but if you took the shirts or not, but, like, everybody had, like, Dillon Panthers gear that they were rocking around town when they were walking around. And I'm, like, never there. But I was on the show, and I was like, hey, I want some of that stuff. So anytime I was around, like, maybe the football field, I'd try and sneak in and maybe, like, take a shirt or two. I didn't
steal
know.
Some shit.
I should have just asked, but I was like, better to beg forgiveness than ask permission because I really want this shirt. But the first time I was there, when I took this off of, like, a background or extras wardrobe truck, and the people that work on the background or extras wardrobe truck, they didn't know who I was. They knew who you guys were. But they had never worked with me because there's, like, not a lot of background and extras in the scenes that I'm in a lot of times. And they came on the truck and like, who are you? What are you doing here? Get out. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Number one rule, you act like you're supposed to be there. Yeah. You got to walk in with confidence and be like, I'm supposed to get these shirts. What are you doing here?
I'll be honest. I don't steal team stuff, but I definitely have stolen so much wardrobe from shows. And I just walk in, I take it, and they're like, what do you like? It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Mine.
Also, I like to steal a prop from like when they're about to strike a set, like I remember on Good Girls every single time they'd be like, oh no, we're never coming back to this set. Like all three of us would be like, let's choose a souvenir. And we'd like secretly choose a tiny souvenir, especially if you have like cool prop guys or gals, obviously. There's like basically nothing. They're usually pretty chill about that stuff. But I have some of my best memories from like up here. I have like all the pens from the bookstore and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, speaking of up here, that's Mae stars in the show. I happen to be on the show with her. I grew my goatee out.
On it.
I grew my goatee
out.
Jealous.
I'm jealous of how good you are on it. He's absolutely hilarious.
But yeah, no, Mae is fantastic too. And I think a lot of people are going to be like really, truly, honestly surprised. Not because they don't know how talented you are, but like, the singing and dancing stuff. Like you
are the one who are singing and you're singing your little heart out and you sound amazing.
All right.
It's really insane.
Up here on Hulu, go watch it now. But we are here to talk about Friday Night Lights. I know that we got a little bit off book there, but we start with the game.
We were in the beyond. We were in the great beyond.
We were in the beyond. And we were in the and beyond. Like I said, the game kicks off. Dillon is destroying McNeil, who is actually based on McNeil High School from Round Rock. Yeah. But the thing is we're based on the Pflugerville Panthers, and they're in the same district, actually, as McNeil. So they would never actually play in the first round of the playoffs against each other. You would only play against a district rival of yours in round 4.
Lazy writers.
I know. Anyway, long story short, the team is having a great time. They're up like 35-0. Coach calls a play.
Crush it.
Do you remember the name of the play?
No, absolutely not.
Slot right, 28 gunslinger. It's Saracen's
Say that, Zach. I want to hear you say it in your Saracen voice.
Call it. All right, slot right, 21 gunslinger.
Oh,
that was cool.
But then, you know what you call Taylor Kitsch in this scene?
What?
I call it threes?
No.
Riggy?
How the hands feeling, Saracen? Pretty good, Riggs. And it works.
Oh,
he says Riggs.
And
he says Riggs. But the whole team lights up because what is going to happen is there's this double reverse. You pitch it to Kitsch, to Riggs, I should say. Yeah. He pitches it to Smash. You're taking off down the sideline. It's a run pass option. He sees you wide open and Smash hits you in stride. Beautiful ball, too, by Smash.
Oh. Well, didn't he used to be a quarterback when he was
on the
dot? Yeah.
Real quick, how did he never get the nickname Big Rig? He's like a big rig truck. He's the fullback.
No.
That's kind of cool, actually. I hate to admit it when you do something cool, but I actually kind of like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I dig Big Rig.
I wanted to highlight an example here real quick of the show actually being like, you know what? We're not going to crap on Saracen. Because in the script, under review real quick,
here we go.
The play is supposed to be a total disaster. It's a triple reverse run pass option. Riggins almost falls down, barely gets the ball to Smash. Smash almost gets tackled. He has to run back like 30 yards, like Tecmo Bowl style. He throws like an 80-yard bomb. It's on the money. And in the script, the ball hits Saracen's hands. He bobbles it, It's tipped high into the air. He juggles. He trips. He falls down, and the ball happens to fall to him, scoring the touchdown.
I scored, didn't I?
Instead,
it doesn't matter what the cookie looks like. It matters what the cookie tastes like.
Well, that was in the script, but instead, they let you look like a real badass athlete, man. You run in stride. You catch that ball over your shoulders. Not easy to do. Touchdown. Saracen's the man.
Well, I think it's because it's much easier to film me just catching a ball than doing some acrobatics, and then we would have lost so many takes.
It would have been you, first of all. It would have been Jay, right?
It would have been Jay Hunt.
That being said, you and Riggins have this celebration that you jump and spin in the air and, bump shoulders, and then the cheerleaders do it on the sideline. Everybody's feeling good. Waltz in the stands. Riggins' dad, him and the elder Riggins are hugging and everything. And then they get into the locker room, and then stuff starts to go sideways as Mac gives a really awful interview where he says some things about Smash and Voodoo and other players on the team of a certain skin color and his thoughts on who they are and what they are capable of. And it leads to probably the most massive storyline in the episode. But after Coach hears this happening, he yanks him back into the office and ends the interview. And then, boom, the credits are there. This is probably the largest storyline in the episode. I think maybe we save it for the fourth quarter of the main body of the episode. We talk about the little things that happen first and then have the conversation about Smash's journey. When we come out of the credits, you kind of end up in Tammy Taylor's office. And this starts our whole journey into the world of Mae's favorite thing, Powderpuff.
Oh, I just love it. Yay. Being a female, I just love to be reminded that I'm a female and this is what I can do is be a little Powderpuff.
Do you think if they rebranded it, it would be way more fun? It would be way better.
Iron Daddy?
Yeah, if it was if they just called it football. I don't know. Wow,
that's progressive. It's again, to me, gender is a construct. I'm it's a social construct. I do not subscribe. So I think, but I will say obviously, once again, no offense, but the women are much better football players than you guys. You're fun while you're juggling and bobbing over there, Saracen.
Tyra's blowing
kicking
people
ass
up,
and taking names. Yeah.
In my high school, Powderpuff is something that a lot of people enjoyed taking part of. I coached my junior and senior year as one of the coaches, and it's always like a Saturday afternoon game, and it's one of those things in high school that's optional that people actually would show up to, which was different in my high school. I went to Lake Howell High School in Florida. If you had an optional student thing, people weren't going. But for ours, people would show up and people would have a good time. But somebody who does not want to show up for this is Tyra, and another person is Julie. And because they've been skipping classes together, we find their friendship's been moving right along.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy's like, your punishment is you have to play.
Did you guys skip classes ever? I just have to know.
Yeah, I did.
No, I actually had perfect attendance in high school.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, here's my thing. I did this in college too, because if I'm there, I actually learn it and I don't have to study as much. And so if I don't go, then I haven't been there to learn the material, and then, it's just harder. And I'm a good student.
I skipped a lot of classes because my high school decided to go from 6 classes a day down to a 4-class block scheduling thing where we would go from having an hour in each class, 6 classes, to having an hour and a half in each class, and they would alternate days. Because I had AP courses, and those never went away over – if you took an AP course, you had to take it the entire year. All the other courses you would take semester to semester. So I had AP Physics and AP Calculus, and I couldn't fit chorus in. So I just started skipping classes and going to chorus instead.
That doesn't really count, does it? Going to
skipping
another,
a class
skipping
to
one
go
class
to
to go
another
to
class.
another? That's not that.
Yeah, that's the biggest nerd brag I've ever heard.
I
skipped class all the time because I had to go to my other class.
I skipped AP Physics to go sing in the choir. Yeah, that makes me sound like such a badass. And this is why I'm on Up Here, currently streaming on Hulu. Hulu.
They make TV. Oh, wait, that's a chocolate drink.
Yes. One of my favorites, all-time favorite.
Not a sponsor, but could be.
Not a sponsor. Yoo-hoo, if you want to come on the show, you are welcome. That being said, Tyra and Julie have been skipping classes together. Their friendship has been moving forward since the horrible breakup between you two, man. It's tough seeing the two of you without each other.
It's tough.
Hot tub. I don't want to say the words hot tub, but I'm going to say
nothing good ever happened in a hot tub.
Nothing good ever happened in a hot tub.
What's up, everybody? Hey, I know everybody's out there is worried about their health, but you should be worried about your hydration just as much because it's a key ingredient in being healthy.
You gotta stay hydrated. If you don't get hydrated, you're gonna get a headache, you're gonna get a muscle cramp, and if you work out hard, just drinking water ain't going to do it fast enough. You got to throw the liquid IV in there because it will hydrate you 2 times faster.
Yeah, liquid IV is the way to go. Listen, I had surgery on my ankle not too long ago, and I am in physical therapy now, and that stuff is intense, and it takes a lot out of you. Little movements takes a lot out of you, and I have to hit my liquid IV to get my hydration up. Listen, their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. I'm telling you right now. In just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins, 2 times faster hydration than water alone. Use it first thing in the morning, before a workout, after physical therapy, when you feel run down, or after a long night out.
And whenever you're using it, just know these things are made with premium ingredients. They're non-GMO. They're free from gluten. They got no dairy. They got no soy. So if you got those allergies, you ain't got to worry about it. And those 5 essential vitamins, do you know what they are? I didn't, but now I do. It's B3, B5, B6, B12, and we all know about vitamin C.
And Liquid IV is delicious, and they make a ton of different flavors. So whatever your favorite is, Concord
I like
grape.
pina coladas. Yep, they got that flavor.
They got Concord grape. They got lemon lime. They got tropical punch, watermelon, strawberry, passion fruit. My favorite, guava. They got acai berry.
Acai? Whatever it is, it's a purple berry, and it's delicious.
You know what we know how to pronounce if we don't know how to pronounce acai?
Liquid IV.
That's right. And they are on a mission to change the world. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 36 million servings in 50-plus countries around the world to keep everybody hydrated.
So, grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code FRIDAY at checkout.
That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FRIDAY at liquidiv.com. Help them. Help us. Help the world. LiquidIV.com. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things. But sometimes life gets you bogged down and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in the way that you want to.
For sure. When I'm stressed, I get scattered. I can't think right. I can't perform well. I'm not as good of a parent. And I go to therapy once a week, and I've used BetterHelp, and sometimes you just need someone to talk to. It's nice to have it regularly, but sometimes you need it in an emergency, and BetterHelp can help you with that.
Yeah, and get to the root of the problems. You know, in Dylan this week, they probably could have used BetterHelp. There's a lot of things flying around.
I think they can use BetterHelp every week in Dylan.
Every single week they could use BetterHelp in Dylan. And I'll tell you why, because when you feel empowered, when you feel like you've gotten to the root of the problem, you are more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you, and it throws a lot at you.
It's super convenient. It's flexible, as I've already said. It's affordable, and it's totally online. You can do it over the phone. You can do it over Zoom. You can do it over FaceTime. Whatever feels right to you. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can then switch therapists as any times if it's not the right match for you, but it probably will be.
Yeah, and if you're not like Zach and you've already had BetterHelp or used BetterHelp, if you're just thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option and place to get started. You can find the perfect therapist for you. So if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/FNL today and get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/FNL.
But Powderpuff does bring us some amazing things in this episode. One of them being, as Zach's, it's not only football.
Landry.
Oh, he's so good.
So funny.
He shows up. And the coach, the PE coach, they've been skipping PE, by the way, Julie and Tyra. And so
that doesn't count.
The PE coach is like,
that's why the punishment is playing in the game.
Exactly.
If they've been skipping English, their punishment would be like going to the Shakespeare show or something.
Which sounds fun as hell.
Yeah, if they skip math, they'd have to go to the architecture exhibit.
Not the architecture exhibit.
I love it, but then the coach, she's like, here we go. Powderpuff's about to kick off. But before I do anything, let me have Landry come up here and address you all because he's going to be our referee. And he gets up and he's like, let's just keep this clean and play this beautiful game in the spirit that it's meant to be played with. And what is cut, there's like an under review here. A bunch of stuff is cut out of this. The undercurrent of Powderpuff is how highly violent Powderpuff is at Dylan in a bunch of cut scenes. So, he says, we don't want anyone hospitalized like last year. And then behind him, Riggins leans into Saracen and says, oh, yeah, last year was a bloodbath. Pudnick coached. They murdered him. He's never been the same since.
This Riggins voice, I can't.
I know, it's terrible.
I love it. I want more.
No, it's not great. It's really bad. I'm so sorry, Taylor. But then Saracen's got to come up and pick teams. Is it worse to be the one getting picked, or is it worse to be the one that's picking the teams? This is a high school nightmare.
This is a really serious question. This is like they asked me when I did the Bachelorette podcast recently off the Vine. We were like, would you rather be the Bachelor or would you rather be a contestant? And it was like, it's bad on both sides. I mean, there's not really a win. It's like, I don't want to be the president, but I also don't want to be, the one that's not getting picked by the president.
Oh, I want to be the picker.
You want to be the
picker? I was
picker?
always last. I was down with it because I was like, hi, everybody. I'm bad at sports. I don't want to be here. I'll probably just be sitting down and saying supportive things to you guys. So if you want that,
you actually like wrote your own destiny.
Excuse me?
You saved your heart from the hurt of being last by just saying, hey, let's just all agree I'm going to be last.
Right. I was like, let's all I'm going to put this on the table now. We're all in the same area here. So, but it's still obviously a little part of me was like, why don't you want me?
Yeah. Well, Riggins' first question to everyone is, who knows how to chop block here? To which one girl says, I do. And he's like, you're coming on my side. and then inexplicably, Saracen turns around to, I think, look at Julie, but then sees Tyra and is like, Tyra.
Well, I wanted to win.
Please.
I was in the doghouse. I had to put her in the dog. I got to put her in her place a little bit,
That's what you think we were doing?
Wrong with you? Something is really wrong with you. You should have been groveling and begging. You should have been like, the only player I want on my team at all is the stunning and incredibly talented, wickedly talented Julie Taylor.
I just love that every time you draft somebody in the Powderpuff game, you say please at the end. I'll take Tyra, please, Julie Taylor, please. He's
a well-mannered young man.
I like how Julie's like, I hate you. Julie is just smoldering this entire episode. She's just fuming.
Yeah, so upset, and she can't believe that she's there. But that leads us into the diner scene with Saracen lamenting, I can't believe I'm so stupid that I picked her third, to which It's Not Only Football pops up, Mae. What happens in that
pheromones. Scene? Which, by the way, I just want to say our producer, Adam Rosenthal, sent me a fabulous article on pheromone parties. No offense. I know we're not really doing this right now, but I just wanted you to know that it is a real thing. Okay. And it looks really weird, but I will say I remember having a crush on this guy. I was like obsessed with him. And I remember like he would put his arm around me and I would smell his armpit. And I was like, I would be like turned on. I was like, that's hot.
What did he smell of? Just
like
himself, his
sweaty sweat, but there was something about the sweaty sweat that I was attracted to, and so now I'm like, was I actually attracted to him as like a person, or was it simply sweaty sweat?
Just sweaty sweat.
We may never know, I guess.
The main rivalry at the Powderpuff game actually is not Saracen and Julie. It's actually Lyla, who doesn't know that a rivalry is happening, and Tyra, who is really motivated by the fact that her mother is kind of starting to go down a path with Buddy Garrity that she's not happy with. And it's really interesting to me. There's a scene in the hallway when, Lyla just is kind of like, hey, I hear your mom's doing really great at the job. And that really pisses Tyra off. And she's talking about, she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with Powderpuff. And then she has that conversation with Lyla and she's like, oh, I'm really into Powderpuff now. And then Tyra's just rocking people. It's a flag football game, and she is just leveling people left and right. But eventually, she levels an offensive lineman. Then she levels Lyla. Lyla's like, what is your problem? And she's like, you're a snob. You can't, she's like basically saying, you can't see anything outside of your own problems. You can't even see what your dad, Buddy Garrity, is doing right now. And, she's mad at her. She's pissed at her. She's like,
if you Lyla's fault. I'm a parent now. And
here we go.
I think we should not make our problems our children's problem. It's not Lyla's problem that her dad is a piece of crap.
But is she even aware of it? I mean, it's not her. Again, who cares if she is or she isn't? Lyla is who she is. But do you think? I think it's like more sort of once again Tyra's ability to have a bigger perspective on things and to sort of read people better. And I do think like Lyla lives a very sheltered life and she doesn't really search for the perspective of anything outside of what's being put in front of her face. And I almost feel like Tyra's just sort of pointing that out because that's actually a place of privilege to like be able to just maintain that, you know, without having the perspective of being forced to sort of deal with the other aspects or look at those things. And it's kind of sucks that Tyra's the one that has to hold all that space and Lyla gets to just.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the place where I think Tyra kind of almost, it's the first time we see her being like a teenager. She's directing her anger and feelings towards the wrong place. Like, Buddy's not doing anything right. Lyla didn't do anything wrong.
I you know what? I see where Tyra's coming from. It's a problem in Dillon, Texas, period. Whether we're talking about race, whether we're talking about social status, whether we're talking about, it seems that so many people are so self-invested. Whether we're talking about a coach putting his team above a player. Yeah. Like, it just seems like everybody's worried about their own problems, and Tyra is just trying to get the entire town to wake up and just see everything that's going on. Maybe we could be better as a town if we all did this. So I think that's like the manifestation of her anger. I don't know. I love the scenes. A couple other highlights of the Powderpuff storyline is you and Julie coming back together when you ask her to play quarterback.
Yeah, she excels.
She comes home. She's really broken
cool
up.
part.
And Tammy is like, what's going on? She's like, I'm just exhausted. Matt put me at quarterback. But what happens right before that scene is wonderful because Coach Taylor, I don't think that he had to discipline Julie in this moment because Tammy has already disciplined Julie. But like sometimes as a dad, you're like, I feel like I also have to, yes, you were wrong. And I'm going to also, discipline you right now. But he says, don't skip class. Don't lie to us. Don't break our trust. Don't take our trust. Mm-hmm. She's like, whatever, I won't. I'm just exhausted because Matt put me at quarterback. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait, what? You're playing quarterback, honey? Wait, come back here. Come back here. And then they have that beautiful moment outside where he's coaching her to play quarterback. And it's like this wonderful reconnection for the two of them. What were you going to say?
I also do love that. I mean, I love the concept of, personally, that's how I think what you will about how I turned out. And I'm sure everyone does. But I will say, like, my parents, that was more their discipline style for sure, was like, it was more like connected and connecting to the truth of the situation and why it was happening and why they were disciplining me. It wasn't just like, because I said so, or or you're in trouble now. Because I think for me, that would have bred more resentment and curiosity of being like, but why? It doesn't make sense to me. And so I feel like, it was sort of that thing of being like, all we have here is like our trust and our safe space to communicate. And like, we are going to do the work to maintain that safe space if you will too. And like, for me, that was so important to uphold that I just didn't dare put it, And so that kind of like any threat to that I was doing, it was like enough, the stress and the guilt of like, disappointing them in that way, or just of breaching that trust because they trusted me so much was like enough to keep me from lying or doing some bad shit,
Yeah.
My parents didn't trust me because I didn't give them a reason to.
Yeah, you were skipping one class to go to another.
I was like, I go to every class.
Perfect attendance.
Perfect attendance. I could trust that.
The two quick things about Powderpuff, Landry and Coach. Coach is now trying to encroach upon the field before the final play, where the play he helped coach Julie, outside on the street ends up being the game-winning play. Mm-hmm. Julie has a run-pass option. She sees an opening. She bolts to the house. You sprint past her into the end zone, which I think is so awesome.
I was showing her where to go.
Saracen running with his own team on the field, and then the celebration afterward is super cute. But in the midst of all that, Coach is starting to come onto the field. He's getting, his daughter's out there playing. Things are getting a little rough. And Landry turns around and he's like, get off my line, Coach. And he's like, excuse me, Lance? And he's like, get off my line. And he holds up, he waves the yellow flag at him. And he's like, this is your first one. One more and you're out of here. It's such a great moment. But when they were recording that, I was recording a scene inside the school. Jason's return to the school, and I came out for lunch and I saw y'all still like down on the field shooting. We were doing 2 units.
Oh.
Jason's returned to school really quickly.
Oh, I loved it. I loved the science class. I don't know why. I really loved it. That's my input.
Last episode we were talking about how Jason in the car just wanted somebody, like in the car with Lyla, was just like, I want someone to believe that I can do things. And nobody believes that he can do anything, including that science teacher, as he's trying to. And I love Jason has a sense of humor. They're dissecting frogs, and he's like trying to, make his lab partner feel more comfortable and being like, I heard that these frogs lived very long and fantastic lives and had lots of tadpoles and, ate lots of flies, but he cannot get that scalpel to work for him. And the teacher comes over and is like, you can just observe, Jason. That's all anybody expects of you, which is just,
that's horrible.
It just pisses me off. I was so mad.
And you get so.
Did you dissect a frog in real life?
No, I never did.
I did.
I never took
did
anatomy. What was that in? Anatomy.
Biology.
Biology? Okay. I never took either
pretty
of them.
wild.
I was a physics guy.
Yeah, you skipped it to go to AP Physics.
But that scene where I'm first there and I wheel down the hall and they let everybody out of the classes and everybody starts like clapping Jason on the back. In that scene is where I saw somebody wearing this shirt walking down the hallway, and that's why I'm wearing it.
Hello.
It's Not Only Football. Friday Night Lights and Beyond is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Now, most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yeah, like you're listening to us talk, but you're probably also driving or you're cleaning, exercising, maybe even grocery shopping. That's what I do. Throw the AirPods in, podcast, while I grocery shop. It's pretty awesome. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you can save money by doing it right from your phone. And drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy or being a homeowner and more. So, just like your favorite podcast, us, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $698 by new customers surveyed who saved Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
There is one thing all great teams, coaches, players, even podcasters like me have in common, and that is preparation. Planning is key in everyday life, too, and a great way to be prepared for the unexpected is to join Air Medcare Network, America's largest air ambulance membership network. Air Medcare Network providers operate state-of-the-art helicopters capable of responding to critically ill or injured patients in need of emergency medical transport. But when you're an AMCN member, you won't see a bill for your flight only when flown by one of their providers. That's right, you pay nothing, zero. Join Air Medcare Network's more than 3 million members. It's just $99 per year. And right now, our listeners get up to an $80 MasterCard or Amazon e-gift card when they join and use offer code FNL. That almost pays for the whole first year. Make sure the Air Medcare Network team is protecting your family and your finances. Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/FNL today. That's airmedcarenetwork.com/FNL.
Anyway, Jason also finds out from Herc later in the episode after Herc teaches him how to drive.
Love it.
That scene was so
That's
cool.
fun stuff. Fun stuff.
You press forward to brake, press down to go. And it just shows, once again, like these guys are capable of so much, and when he's with Herc, he feels capable. He feels like he has such a bright future. But when he's back at school, he feels like he has no future. And he shares that with Lyla after Herc says, you're getting an invitation to try out for the Paralympic national team to go play in Beijing at the Olympics.
That was super fun, but what I do have to say is kids are allowed in bars in Dillon.
Yeah. During the day? Yeah, why not? Maybe after a certain amount of time.
If they serve wings, you can go in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe after a certain point of the day or whatever. But anyway, But those guys in that scene, 4 of them are actual gold medal winning Paralympians. Yeah. And it's so cool to see those guys on screen, to see people that, were just kind of background, but now are getting actual roles where they're getting fully formed characters and they're a part of Jason's journey now. And instead of going out and trying to find actors, they have these amazing people who They're like, why do we have to go out and cast for a speaking role? Let's just use the guys we already have. And it just works so well. But after Jason, he sees Lyla. She asks him if, do you think I'm a snob? Jason's answer's not great.
It was honest.
It was honest. Kind of.
I don't know. Mae, what do you think? If you ask someone if you're a snob, never would because you're not. And they said kind of.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you know something, if you suspect something about yourself and then you ask the person that you're supposed to be able to trust the most if you're that thing, do you want them to be honest with you or do you want them to like put up a front and lie to you and be like, no, you're not that thing?
Well, I mean, I guess if to me, this, in order to have a place of trust, you have to have mutual respect and like true love and understanding of each other's like, hearts. And so I feel like I would hope that if I were to ask something like that, the person that I would be asking would know me well enough to understand me and love me and all the parts of me and sort of be able to maybe put in place why people say that or where they're coming from or what their perspective is, as opposed to like being like, yeah, you're snobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think Jason and Lyla have that. I think Jason and Lyla has that. He says kinda, but then immediately says, why, did someone say something to you? You want me to go beat him up? And he like throws that elbow that he threw at Riggins, in the scene there. And, but then they get into the seriousness of how Lyla was right in the past episode when she's like, I don't know what your plans are. And now he's just wishy-washy. He's like, now I got invited to go to Austin to train with the national team, and now I want to get my GED. I'm going to quit school. Being at school is crazy. It's just weird. People don't treat me like I'm a human being. And, when he talks to Herc in the truck, Herc's like, I felt like when I reintegrated into society, I knew some sacred wisdom that nobody else knew. Basically, I look at life a whole different way, and I can't be expected to do what everybody else is doing. So there's more trouble brewing for Jason and Lyla. There was a cut scene that I thought was so cool that went alongside Coach training Julie, where Lyla is asking Jason to help her learn how to throw a perfect spiral. She's like, I can't throw the football the way that you used to. Can you help me?
Oh, that's kind of cool scene.
And Jason's not even listening. He's like so distant. Cool. And it just shows how separated he is from football at this point. All right. The last storyline, the fourth quarter here is everything that happens with Smash throughout this episode. And to go back to a point from earlier when we were talking about Tyra, like just hoping that this whole town could see things in a wider view and get out of their own myopic viewpoints and see everybody else and see the things that are happening around them and how to address them and become better, like expecting more of this town. It's never been more apparent than in this storyline. The opening parts of the episode, Mac refers to his running backs, who all happen to be black, as junkyard dogs, as athletes that you want ripping up turf out there. And when he's asked, why somebody like Saracen is quarterback when, Smash has a pretty good arm, as evidenced in that 80-yard bomb he throws to you in the beginning, Mac is basically saying, well, Smash is more of an athlete. And, Saracen's less of an athlete, but more cerebral. And this type of conversation happens in the NFL today.
Yeah.
So nothing's really changed, I think, in the 20 years that, since this episode premiered. This starts Smash on a journey of, does he confront this head on as a team leader? Waverly really wants him to kind of stand up in the situation. And Smash keeps on saying, why is it on me? Why is it on me? And why do I have to do it? Because somebody else said something stupid. I'm focused on something else. So again, it's kind of this like everybody's focused on their own thing and ignoring the bigger picture. But eventually the bigger picture becomes so pressing that you can no longer ignore it, or he can no longer ignore it in the episode.
Scott, I was telling you a little bit earlier today, and I think, I know, of course, Tammy wasn't going to come in and fix everything, but I actually do like the attempt at having some sort of forum and like speaking to each other and saying things. And I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood and went to a diverse high school. And I had a class my senior year where it dealt with a lot of social issues. And it was, pretty 50-50 black-white. And people voiced thoughts they had or feelings they had and experiences they had. And that was the first time I ever really was like, oh, even though I've like grown up next to you, I've not had the same experience as you. And a lot of things like really resonated with me and made me see the world just a little bit differently. And so I guess the hope Tammy had was to have that kind of moment. It's not kumbaya. It's not going to change everybody's life experience or their trajectory, but hopefully it breeds a little more understanding amongst different people. And unfortunately, Dylan didn't seem quite ready for that.
No, it's interesting to me to watch all the characters and how they act within this storyline. Mac has a very hollow apology where he says, I see all colors of skin on my players and I don't see them any differently. And I'm sorry if my words made anybody.
Big problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a huge moment popping in saying that I don't see color, comparing it to green, blue, all that stuff. Big problem.
Exactly.
Big problem.
And it's what you're driving at is I feel like this town, and we see it evidenced very early on when the reporter's like, this school was one of the last to integrate. It feels to me like Dylan could stand to have more of these town halls, education, all of these things, conversation. But instead, as Waverly says, the problem here is everyone chooses to ignore that racism even exists in this town. And that's why we can't move forward. Because in order to actually try to take steps to fix something, you have to admit that it's broken in the first place.
100%.
And everyone is kind of floundering. Saracen doesn't know how to talk to Smash about it. And by the time he does say, hey, maybe we should talk to the team, it's way too late. Riggins comes to the Alamo Freeze and says, hey, why don't you talk to your boys and tell everybody to chill out, which was like, whoa, holy shit. To which Smash responds, my boys, look, football brought us together, but we're not cool like that. So don't assume that we are friends just because we are teammates. We have each other's backs on the field, but until you respect me as a human being, we're not actually going to be friends in real life. And there's something to be said for that too, because Smash very much, you see all this locker room talk happening where people are kind of trying to bury the issue for the entire episode. And Smash is kind of playing along with that. But at a certain point, it's just too much for Smash, and Waverly helps with that process too. I loved their scenes in this episode. Some bigger scenes cut as well of Waverly's in this episode.
Well, I mean, you were telling me about this may be what you're going to talk about. There's a scene in the bleachers during the Powderpuff game where Waverly and Smash are talking.
It's a cut scene, but it's another example of maybe Friday Night Lights trusting the audience to see that this is what is happening as opposed to having to tell them what is happening. But Waverly, the last time they speak before Smash finally decides to take action, and this was cut from the episode, they're in the stands watching the Powderpuff game, and she says, look out there on the field. Is there anyone out there that looks like us? Why do you think that is? They're down there having fun, playing a game, and no one that looks like us is out there. Why do you think there's no one that looks like us on the cheerleaders? Wake up. Wake up. And you can see it in the episode, so I don't think they had to necessarily have that scene in there because you get a sense of that. Smash's reaction is such an interesting journey to watch and just take in. And to see him come to the decision, at this public forum that Tammy has put together that devolves into fighting, Smash decides to go and talk to the man that started it all and have a conversation with Mac, to which Mac is so disgusting in the moment. He calls him son, which is so demeaning. He says, I've been here 26 years. I do things the way that I do them. No teenager too big for his britches is going to come in here and tell me anything. And how I feel about you off the field is none of your concern. Ugh. It's wrong. It's awful.
It's also, I just have to say, to the point of Smash, add it to the point of now this being even more of the burden that he has to constantly carry, that I can't possibly imagine any of this experience or what it must be like, but I can see how completely unfair it is and unbelievable it is that these all the white kids and Riggins and the people are expecting Smash to, and all the people of color to they're not only not acknowledging the constant burden that they have to carry and the weight of the things they have to carry and like what that experience must be like that they can't even begin to imagine. But then they also are trying to put the responsibility of fixing things or making it better or whatever on them, which is just, again, a huge component, I think, of, I mean, I'm obviously still learning, but of systemic racism in general, you know, is like putting the burden on people of color who already, it's not their responsibility to teach us to, you know, anything like that. And I just think, you know, Riggins having that conversation with him and Smash reacting like that, it's again, it's just another shade of something that needs to be acknowledged here. That is like a massive problem with the, you know, I think as I'm learning the systemic racism in the world.
You said burden, and one of the best lines in this episode is Waverly and Smash, and I love all their scenes because they still care for each other. There's a flirtation in all of their scenes while they're carrying this really heavy, you know, issue that they're trying to battle and struggling with and having a tug of war over for the entire episode. But he says, you know, I'm not Jesse Jackson. Okay, Waverly, my cause is football. I play football. And she says to him, that's the burden you're born with, baby, the burden and the blessing. And Smash takes it upon himself to call a players only meeting at the church. Waverly lets him have that space. She gets the keys, like sneaks the keys out from Dad. And Smash calls this players meeting, and it's a place for them to speak from shared perspective in a safe space, and then that leads to a team walkout. And I liked in this episode, much like in Jason's storyline, seeing some of the actors that we'd seen all season long that were background that we got to know really well off the field. DeAnthony Palms, Andres, Kendrick, they all started getting speaking lines and their characters started coming to the fore, which is such a cool thing as well, is they didn't go out and try to cast new actors to come in and tell us a very special story on a very special episode of Friday Night Lights. It was just real. It was honest. And they utilized people that had been a part of the Friday Night Lights family to continue telling this story. And Smash's story, the team walkout, that will continue next week. And that ends the fourth quarter of this episode. And now we jump into overtime. The one thing I wanted to talk about, and I think it was a necessary cut because there was way different focus that needed to be had in this episode. Walt Riggins had a huge storyline in this episode in the script. It starts out after the game is over. Walt's in the locker room hounding Coach. He's like introducing himself. He's saying, hey, my boy's pretty good, huh? You know, what do you think? My boy's got a chance to go to college. Hey, what do you think? He's kind of doing the same thing Billy did early in the season, but that's what's keeping Coach's attention away from what's happening with Mac. And then there's a later scene that's actually pretty funny where the next morning they wake up and he's made a big heaping breakfast for Tim.
Don't say heaping breakfast.
It's eggs. Don't say heaping breakfast.
Did that not upset you? I saw Zach flinch as well. I thought it's just something about it just didn't sit right.
When I said heaping breakfast? I don't know. Anyway, he said, I made you breakfast. And he's like, thanks, Dad. He's like, I don't mean pizza or a Pop-Tart. Look at this. And he's made him eggs, bacon, all this protein, all this stuff. And then in front of, heaping. Just a giant mound.
Heaping pile of meat.
But then in front of Billy, he puts down a glass of juice and 2 aspirin and says, and here for your hangover. And you can tell that like there's still this like bone of contention between Walt and Billy. But later in the episode, there's also a scene where Walt is coming home from the golf course, having hustled a couple of Dillon, Texas local golfers, and he's bought Tim new cleats, and he's lauding his son now with gifts.
Well, that's a nice way to use your hustle money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but this storyline, I honestly don't remember if it's lifted and put in another episode, but it was. This is what makes Friday Night Lights such a cool show. We say it all the time. They do not shy away from cutting entire storylines if they feel like something else is more important.
Well, you only have 42 minutes. You know?
I know.
It just, your stuff's got to go.
So why take away more from certain storylines that they feel they really need to lean into? And they just pulled this entire Walt Riggins thing out. He had one episode, he came to the game, and who gives a shit? Let's move on. So anyway, that's my overtime, an entire Walt Riggins storyline.
Wow. Mae, what's your overtime?
Yeah, okay. My overtime is just pointing out even more how much I love the friendship between Julie and Tyra, because I think sort of, it reminds me of when you're a teenager and your family is like that, person's a bad influence. And actually, I had a bad influence friend who, again, my parents weren't like that.
If you're only listening, not watching, you should have seen the quote, the air quotes that Mae just gave us.
Doing motion. I feel like I had a bad influence. I'm doing it again, friend. But, again, my parents were hippies. They were like, we trust you, but that, could have been put into that box. And honestly, without her, I would have been, my perspective was so expanded by her. And I felt like it helped me kind of move out of my safe little box when I was a teenager and not in a dangerous way, but just kind of open my perspective to things and explore different things. And sometimes I think finding that freedom in a place, especially that is with someone like Tyra, who's so smart and so intelligent. And I know she's young and whatever, teenagers make mistakes, but I love the idea that Julie, who has sort of lived this sheltered life, but is so curious and interested in learning and growth, kind of is attracted to Tyra for that reason. And that Tyra, I think, has a respect for Julie in that way, because she can see that even though they're different, Julie at least, wants to expand her perspective. She's sort of interested in growing or changing or learning or whatever. Unlike Lyla, just kidding. But I do really love
Man, get off Lyla's back.
Yeah, that friendship is really interesting. It's just, Tyra was somebody else who had a hollow apology this episode when she flippantly apologizes to Tammy for skipping classes. It's a much bigger deal to Julie, but maybe it should be less of a big deal. And I love that friendship as well. Zach, what's your overtime?
My overtime would be just, I think, as much as Mae hated it, the Powderpuff game was really fun to film, because it was one of those ones
I
where
loved it. I thought it was cool.
No,
I just think it's insane to say Powderpuff, but okay. I loved the game. And again, I was
we gotta rebrand
they
it.
are better
let's just rebrand
we gotta rebrand it. Let's figure that out.
It was really
Tell
fun
us in the comments below if you're gonna rebrand it so it didn't sound so
Iron Daddy. The Iron Daddy Championships. Tell me about the Iron Daddy Championships.
The Iron Daddy Bowl. Go ahead.
I'm supposed to come up with a name?
No. We're calling it the Iron Daddy Bowl, and you're going to tell us why it was so fun to film.
It was just fun because it was we literally just went out and played. And there were a couple of plays that needed to happen for the most part, but we kind of just played a flag football game. The last behind-the-scenes thing, and it takes 3 seconds. That's the only scene I ever had with Minka.
Nuh-uh.
That's right. Yeah. Last episode, you were like, I never had a scene with Minka. And then this episode, you had a scene with Minka.
And I wasn't even on her team, so I didn't even have lines with her. I just happened to be on the same field.
You can never take anything we say on the show 100%
Your loss. I got to work with her on Parenthood more than you got to work with her.
I know. She was my best friend down there, and I never even got to work with her.
We are not taking a question from the press box today, but I did want to let you know that something was brought to my attention from the press box. So we are reading, we are listening, that if you look at the Pflugerville football schedule from 2006, the regular season schedule are the teams that Dylan played, which I didn't know. So I've been scouring the internet trying to find what all the teams are based on. I could have just gone to the site and looked at the damn schedule, and then all this would have been solved. So I want to say a sincere thank you to everybody out there that's posting and commenting in the rate and review section on Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are reading, we are listening. So instead of a question, I wanted to bring that up, that somebody out there was very, very helpful in letting us know. I'll get the name and give that proper shout out in next week's episode. Speaking of next week's episode, it's going to be an awesome one. We have Buzz Bissinger coming on, the author of Friday Night Lights, cousin to Peter Berg, the reason that Peter wanted to make the movie in the first place, and then the true impetus for why we have a TV show. Because all of the concepts that Buzz Bissinger explored in Friday Night Lights, the book, was too much to stick into a 2-hour-long film. And Peter said, screw this. I can't explore all of the issues that I want to explore about a small town in Texas in film form. So that's why we are blessed with the show Friday Night Lights. Next week, Buzz Bissinger will be our guest. The impetus for our show existing in any way, shape, or form in the first place. I can't wait, and I hope all of you out there can't as well. If you don't have anything to say in the comments section, please hashtag Iron Daddy Bowl to let us know that you made it all the way to the end, and we will see you next week.
Also, don't forget to watch Scott Porter and I in Up Here on Yoo-Hoo. Just kidding, Hulu.
And also, Mae's nails today are incredible. They're green just like Hulu. So there we go. Boom, booyah. And for Mae Whitman, for Zach Gilford, I am Scott Porter. This is It's Not Only Football Friday Night Lights and Beyond, and we will see you next week.
Go Blue.
Watch Up Here. Peace.
Peace.